All right, here we are live. My apologies for a little bit of a mix up there at the beginning. I've had a bit of a crazy morning. I am just going to turn my video down here. Yeah, okay, shouldn't hear anything now. I can hear it on my phone for some strange reason. I don't know why. Okay, I gotta go back to my phone for 1 second. Turn the volume down on it. Okay, we should be good now. All right. So, it was a crazy morning today. I'm preparing for my live stream. Everything's relaxed. Everything's fine. And then all of a sudden, I get a text from my son saying there's a bomb threat at my school. We're being evacuated. What? So he says, we're being evacuated. I'm going to my friend's house. I'll let you know if I'm coming home or not. Okay. So then about a half hour later, I get a notice from him saying, or a text I should say, come and get me. I'm at my friend's house, gives me the address. So I had to rush over there, pick him up and rush back. And here I am, a little bit flustered, but I'm going to try and get myself through what we are going to talk about today. I got some notes here, so I want to make sure I can see them. Hopefully I can see them. I may have to move them over here. So what we're going to talk about today, I got some people saying good morning. Good morning. Good morning, R.E. Red and Slane. Good morning to you guys. Thanks for joining me. Awesome. We are going to talk about practicing. You people, most of you do not know how to practice, and I didn't either. Don't think that I'm better than anybody else, because I am not. I was a failed practicer for many, many years until I got some excellent teachers. I've been very lucky. I have to tell you, it's not by accident that I had and still have fantastic music and drum teachers. Some of it is an accident. Some of it was just, you sign up for a music program and boom, here's your teacher, and that teacher turns out to be amazing. But then there were other times where I sought out teachers. I specifically found out their email, their phone number, whatever I could get. I contacted them and I set up the lessons. That happened more times than not, where I contacted the teacher and got fantastic results because I knew they were great teachers. Dom Famulero being a perfect example, the best teacher that I've had. And I contacted him and set up the lessons. So that was one of the smartest things I ever did. He was one of the guys, there was a couple of other teachers too, that taught me how to practice. So that's what we're talking about today. I don't like these drummer jokes. What do you call the drummer that broke up with his girlfriend? Homeless. Ooh, that hurts. That hurts. It's funny, and it is true in a lot of cases. Quite honestly, though, not true in my case. Not true. Even though there was a time, I will admit, where being a musician, things weren't exactly amazing, and I did struggle. All musicians struggle. All people struggle. Life is all about ups and downs. We struggle, we do well, we go up and down. Right now, things are going really good. Can't complain. Everything is good. So let's talk about practicing. The first thing that you want to be aware of when you're practicing is that you want to get organized. Sorry, I keep getting interrupted by these comments because they're kind of funny. Slane says, it's Lucifer. I just changed back to my original nick. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to target things in your practicing. So you want to come up with ideas that you want to get better at. Now, when you're a beginner, let's take it sort of through different levels. When you're a beginner, most beginners have no clue what to practice, when to practice, how to practice, whatever. So the first part of this, I am going to target beginners. So for beginners, this is for everybody, this part, you want to do a warm-up. Now, the warm-up can consist of many, many different things, okay? So just as an example, I'm going to give you a little bit of something that I do for a warm-up, and we'll do it with a click. So let's get my metronome going here. We're going to do it fairly slow. Play along with me if you like. I'm doing it at 72 BPM. So here's a typical warm-up that I do. Check it out. 2, 3, 4. Double it. Triple. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, the whole bar, 2, 3, 4. Now we switch to singles. 2, 3, 4, 1. Getting the bounce, emphasizing the bounce. 1, 2, 3, 4. 30-second notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. 8 notes. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 4. 2. Triplets. 2, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 2, 3 16ths, 6tuplets, 1 to the end of the 2 to the end of the 1 to the end of the 2 to the end of the 3 to the end of the 4 to the end of the 30 seconds. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Let the list bar 30 seconds. 3 or 64ths. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Last time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. All right, so that's one of the warm-ups that I like to do to get my hands feeling good. Always warm up. So some of the things I recommend is the Joe Morello exercise, which is what I just did. You can do Tommy Igoe's Great Hands for Life warm-up, which is fantastic. You can also do the full Joe Morello pyramid. I sort of did it when I was doing this. There's another part to that that you can check out. I actually may do a lesson on the complete Joe Morello warm-up. So the warm-up is number one. Now, next thing you want to target is, like I said, pick something that you want to prove. So let's say you want to be a better jazz player. So you're going to pick out some exercises. You might pick out some exercises from syncopation. I'm actually going to do a video showing the Marvin Smitty Smith jazz exercises that I worked on for years. I have a funny story about that. I'm not going to tell it right now, but I have a funny story about the Marvin Smitty Smith syncopation exercises. So you can do the Marvin exercises. You can work out of John Riley's book. You can work out of Jim Chapin's Independence book, which is a legendary book for developing jazz. Those three things, the Smitty exercises, John Riley's book, which is fantastic, and of course Jim Chapin's book, which is legendary. I have both of those books, plus of course Smitty's exercises. Smitty's exercises are not in a book. You have to either have studied with Smitty or one of his students to be able to figure it out. It's a very complicated and difficult jazz independence routine, and I worked on it for about 4 years. That's how long I spent working on those exercises. And it's one of those things where once you get started, you want to keep going. Another really, really good similar type of thing to Smitty's exercises is out of the book New Breed by Gary Chester. You can I don't think there's necessarily a jazz section in the New Breed. It's mainly eighths and sixteenths and broken eighth notes and broken sixteenths and stuff like that. But the syncopation exercises that Smitty taught are very similar to New Breed. Okay, so you pick your topic and you spend time working on it. Okay, now when you're practicing, don't do something that everybody does, including myself. I used to do this too, and that is wanking, meaning I go off and do my own thing, and I'm not focused anymore. I'm just playing. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing that. Do that at the end. After you've done your focus points for your lesson, or what you're trying to accomplish in your practice, rather, not lesson. And then at the end, play whatever you want to play. When I was in music school, I can remember a teacher saying he would parade up and down the practice room area. When he heard people playing stuff perfectly, he knew the guys were wanking because it was stuff they already knew how to play. When he heard guys struggling, playing off time, not exactly getting it, it's not nailed down yet, he knew that was practice, and he praised those guys. So you want to practice stuff that you can't do or you find difficult doing and you can't nail down. You want to learn how to play jazz, like I said. Well, in the beginning, jazz is going to be really hard. Jazz is very difficult. I love jazz music. I love jazz playing. It's frickin' hard to play. I was very fortunate. Once again, I had some fantastic teachers. Kevin Dempsey, one of the greatest jazz drummers, in my opinion, that Canada has ever produced. I spent years and years learning from Kevin. I learned the Smitty exercises originally from Kevin. Another fantastic jazz guy that I studied with is another Canadian legend, played with Miles Davis. His name is Jim Blackley. Another Canadian, coincidentally, but just amazing, amazing jazz player. Jim taught me the Tony Williams technique on the ride cymbal. And it took a long time to get that technique. But Jim, brilliant teacher, had lots of patience and worked it out. And what I did with that Tony Williams technique was not only do I use it when I'm playing a jazz feel, but I use it playing eighths, quarters, sixteenths, triplets, shuffles, you name it. That's what I adapted the Tony Williams jazz ride to be able to be used in any form of music. Whatever you're playing, I take that Tony Williams technique and it works brilliantly for me, okay? All right, I've got another comment here I'm just going to talk about here. You have a really nice loose control technique. It is very fluid, articulate. I had to learn to loosen up my technique after many years in DCI drum corps marching. Oh, wow, you're a drum corps marcher. That's fantastic. Marching drummer. That's fantastic. Well, thank you very much. I spent a lot of time working technique. If you've ever tuned in to any of my videos or seen me play, my technique is it's been my focal point in terms of taking the technique that I've developed from really great teachers. Again, I can't stop talking about how great the teachers I had, but they're the guys that are responsible for me. Obviously, I put the practice time in, but I wouldn't have been able to do this without these teachers. So that's why I praise them so much. So taking that technique, the loose technique, So whatever I do on the pad translates to the kit. So marching band drummers, here's a tip for you guys. A lot of marching band drummers have really, really high level snare drum, rudimentary control, dynamics. These guys have got it all. Amazing. They can play those essential rudiments like there's nobody's business. I mean, you know, those guys practice that stuff. What I did was I took the Steve Gadd approach and I took a lot of those rudiments and I applied them to drumming. Also, that looseness that my friend here, R.E. Red, is talking about is I take that looseness and apply it to the grooves. So just for a split second here, I'll show you what I mean. So no matter what I play, I'm always thinking about being loose, relaxed, grooving, and your groove is going to get better with that loose approach. So back to what we we're talking about. We got off topic a little bit. So the other thing is organize your time. So let's say I have an example drum practice here. Let's say you're going to do 2 hours of practice. So you warm up for 15. Task number 1. So you decide what your first exercise is going to be. You spend a half an hour at it. Could be reading, grooves, feel, independence, rudiments, whatever it is, it's half hour. Then weakness exercises. Left hand, for example, left foot, independence, your time, whatever you feel your weaknesses are, the things that you hate and you must avoid, now we're going to address them. This is the time in these focused practice sessions. So the dreaded left hand exercises, well, guess what? One of them, do everything starting with a left lead. So whatever you're doing it, whatever the exercise, double strokes, paradiddle, you do it with a left lead. Okay, now, the other thing you can do with left lead, I have to move the microphone again, is a groove. So you want to play with a left hand lead if that's your weakness or that's something that you want to improve. I got my coffee here. I got to drink this. Keep my energy levels up. It's been a stressful morning. Stress is debilitating. You guys find that? I lose so much energy. Stress kills me. I try to be pretty relaxed person, but stress, you know, I mean, it's pretty stressful when you get a call from your son saying there's a bomb threat at your school. Come pick me up. You know, I couldn't get over there fast enough. So brutal. Anyways, moving along. Okay, so you got your focused energy. That's going to be the next exercise. Focus exercises. Make sure that you are going to work on a specific song, specific groove, you know, a lick, Steve Gadd, Steve Smith thing you've been trying to figure out, you specifically work on that. So that's another half hour. The weakness exercise is a half hour. The focus exercises are a half hour. Then exercise, or the fifth thing that you can do in your 2-hour practice time is pick a song or a drumless track and play along with it. Only do that for about 15 minutes and just play. That's not wanking. Playing along with a song and practicing stops, starts, song form, understanding the verse, the chorus, the bridge, how the groove changes throughout the song, understanding songs. Ultimately, that's the most important thing. That is the most important thing ultimately, is being able to play songs. So if that is a very important thing to you, which it is to me, you can increase the time. I'm just giving you examples here. You can flip this around. You can do 15 minutes of task number one and half hour of songs. You can focus the entire 2-hour practice on songs, whatever you need to do, okay? So basically, those 5 things that I just gave you, which is the warm-up, task number 1, weakness exercises, focus exercises, and then playing songs or drumless tracks. Those 5 things total up to 2 hours. Now, 2 hours is just an example. If you only got 15 minutes, so be it. 5-minute warm-up, 10 minutes of focus. If you got an hour, 2 hours, if you've got more than 2 hours, that's amazing because most people don't have that much time. Now, for me, when I was practicing heavy, which was around music school time, I would do anywhere between 6 to 10 hours a day of practice. I spent all my downtime doing homework and or practicing drums when I was in music school because you're not working, you're in school. There was no time for me to really work a lot at that time. I mean, I would still be doing gigs and I would still be practicing. As a matter of fact, the school would provide me with students and I can remember getting paid to teach. When you're in the final year of a program, you might start teaching the first year, for example. Or the people that are not even quite into the school, they're trying to get into the school and they need to learn all the different things that you have to do for the audition. Excuse me. Those people also were being taught a lot by the students that were more advanced, that had been through the program basically. So that was a really great thing too, getting experience teaching at that young age, Okay, so another thing I want to talk about is just some things you should be practicing. You should be practicing your grooves. Could be grooves that you make up, can be grooves to specific songs, can be legendary grooves, Neil Peart groove, Steve Jordan, Steve Gadd, Steve Smith, Stuart Copeland, you name it. Whoever, you might want to practice some of their grooves to be able to understand the way that they play. That's a really awesome thing. Reading. Oh my God. We haven't even gotten into that. Hugely important. Now, for those of you that do not read, you are doing yourself a disservice. Learn how to read. It's very, very important to learn how to read music. Now, I realize that some guys will say, well, I play in a rock band and I'm not reading charts. I'm not playing big band. I'm not playing jazz tunes, even though a lot of jazz is improvised. Quite often, the head of the tune is not improvised. It's a set thing and it's quite often played with a chart. And then the solo sections are the improvised parts. Now, in rock music, a lot of rock drummers don't read, but the ones that are educated and smart do. All of my students that are adult students that come to me to learn how to improve their technique, grooves, different styles, they all say to me they wish that they learned how to read at an earlier age. Reading is important for everyone, and I'll tell you why. Let's say you're a rock drummer and you happen to know how to read music, fantastic. You're going to get more gigs because you won't have to turn them down. If some band contacts you and says on a Monday and says, yeah, we need you for Friday and Saturday, and you got to learn 40 songs, whoa, that's a lot. And especially if you don't know them, maybe you know 5. And then the rest of them, you don't know. If you can chart them, which means you listen to them, you lift the figures that you hear, and you write them down, then you practice them a little bit. You bring them to the gig because you might not have time for a rehearsal with the band necessarily. I've done many gigs where there was no time to rehearse with the band. The gig just had to happen. Here I am. Yeah, I got a music stand here, but big whoop. Want to fight about it? The music stand is here, and I'm reading the charts as I'm playing. The charts that I wrote, that I understand, not necessarily exactly to the code of how to write music, let's say, because I have my own way of coming up with different parts. I take a lot of cues from vocals, so I'll write vocal lines in sometimes over the drum groove sections. You know, might be a bridge, and I'll say the first couple words that the singer says, and that helps me. That's something that I adapted into my lifting for song purposes. So 35 songs. Yes, it takes time to lift them. I can do it really quickly because I've been reading music a long time. But it's going to save you, because trying to memorize 35 or 40 songs, very difficult. I'm not saying it's impossible. There are guys out there that are very gifted that way. They can hear something and memorize it. I'm not one of them. I mean, quite often in the heat of the moment, I can still improvise something that works and fits. Might not be exactly in the song. It works and fits. Nobody complains. It's fine. But to me, if I'm playing a cover tune, you know, I want to play that tune the way that it's supposed to be played. It kind of annoys me sometimes when I see people going off doing their own thing a little bit. I'm not saying it's bad, but for me, I like to try and play the tune the way I originally hear it on the, you know, the CD, the download, the radio, whatever. So I can lift it. So I can listen to a song. I can basically lift practically any tune in anywhere between 10 to 30 minutes. Now, I realize it's time consuming to be able to lift all these tunes, but it's going to help you because you can, when you get that call, you can say, yeah, I'll take that gig, because you're not going to be stressed. You know, you can lift all the songs. You get the set list, you start lifting, show up to the gig, or if you're lucky, show up to the rehearsal, practice them. You got your charts, you're good to go. So reading, very, very important. Another thing, practice soloing. But again, don't wank the solo. Solos, watch guys like Steve Smith, Steve Gadd. These guys are musical soloists. And ultimately, it's a focused and musically controlled solo. Meaning that, let's say, the form of your tune, and I hope I'm not losing you guys with music talk here. I hope you guys can stay with me. But if you have a 32 bar form, which consists of A, B, A. You jazz guys and music school guys are going to know exactly what I'm talking about. So you've got A, B, A form, which translates to a 32 bar form, solo in that form. So you do 8 bars of A, do another 8 bars of A, then you go to the B section, change the solo. Solo changes up for 8 bars in the B section. Then you go back to the A section and repeat those 2 A sections all over again. Sorry, you just do it one 8-bar A section. Sorry. Then you've completed a 32-bar form. Guess what? You're a musician. You're a musician. You're not just wanking out a solo aimlessly. You're actually following a form. Learn how to do that, drummers. Somebody made a joke about drummers earlier, you know, being homeless, whatever. The other joke that I hate is, what do you call a guy that hangs out with a band? The drummer. I hate that joke because it's implying that the drummer's not a musician. If you get yourself educated and you take lessons and train yourself and get trained, you become one of the musicians, and you won't be one of those guys that hangs out with a band. You don't ever want to be that. I've always been insulted by that joke because I have never been one of those guys. Maybe, in the early days of drumming as a kid, whatever, I didn't know what was going on musically. But now I understand everything that's going on with the bass, the guitar, the keys. I understand the form of the tune. I memorize forms. I can remember when I studied with Zorro the drummer, Lenny Kravitz drummer. He also played in New Edition, and I think he even did some gigs with Whitney Houston, if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, Zorro said to me, because I said, your execution of songs and groove is so tight. And he said to me that he doesn't think about what he does on the drums as licks or useless grooves. He thinks about everything musically and as a song. So when he's playing the grooves, he's playing them in his head in a song format. Those are what the great song drummers do. They're always thinking about the song. They're not thinking about the licks. They're not thinking about what can I do to make me look good. The goal is make everybody look good by playing what's appropriate for the song. That's the most important thing, okay? So practice soloing, do it in a musical form. I love drum solos, musical drum solos. Another thing is stay focused and be consistent for however long you're going to practice. Stick to that routine I gave you, that 5.2 hour practice. Stick to it. At the very end, let's say you got an extra, it turns out, I got 10 more minutes. Then you can wank and do whatever you want to do and, try and get your John Bonham stuff going on or whatever you want to do that's just for you for fun. Do it then. But stay focused in that 2 hour period of practice, okay? Now, another thing that's very, very important. Oh, here's a comment here, sorry. Slane, that's what I have been doing lately. I found some drumless tracks in various styles. This has been great to track my progress as I'm just beginning. Slane, fantastic, man. Get some grooves. AC/DC is a perfect example. Back in Black, right? Get a drumless Back in Black track and try and play along. Now, everybody drags Phil Rudd through the mud. Phil's actually a great drummer, man. AC/DC is a fantastic band. Fantastic. And anyone that tries to say that it's really, really simple, they haven't listened to a lot of AC/DC. I'll tell you a story. A guy that I know, if you watch the Thunderstruck video, the bald drummer, and you're like, where the heck did Phil go? Well, Phil went to jail for a little while. And this drummer, Canadian, his name is Chris. I remember meeting him in Niagara Falls and having a great chat with him and him telling me all about being an AC/DC. So he subbed for Phil. And he was playing at the time with a singer by the name of Tom Jones. So you got to be a little bit older to know who Tom Jones is. But he's that guy that sings, "It's not unusual to be loved by anyone. Do-do-do-do-do." That's all I'm going to sing. I'm not a singer. Anyways, Tom Jones, that was his big hit. And he was drumming for Tom Jones. AC/DC happened to see him playing with Tom Jones and said, we want to hire this guy. Because they were looking for a drummer because they knew Phil was going to jail. So they hired Chris. And he told me that learning all Phil's parts and playing like Phil was really difficult, challenging. Phil's got a unique way to play. One thing about Phil is he plays a little. I'm not gonna compare him to Bonham by any means, but Bonham used to play behind the beat. Phil plays behind the beat a tiny little bit. It's a little bit lazy. It's super hard to go around the beat. You get trained to play on the beat. That's what the metronome tells you to do. But once you get really good and you understand where the beat lies, then you can play a little bit ahead of the beat. You can play a little bit behind the beat. John Robinson, the great studio session great, talks about this in his DVD that he put out a few years back about playing on the beat, ahead of the beat, behind the beat. Once you understand where that beat lies and you can feel it in here and feel it in here, translate it to here, then you can monkey around with the time, but it's still in time. Bonham was, listen to Black Dog. He's so far behind the beat, it's ridiculous. It almost sounds like it's off, but it's not, because Bonham was brilliant. So, anyways, my friend Chris, having to change his style to become a little bit lazy required a lot of dedicated practice. So, anything that you want to do to get better on the drums requires dedicated practice, a focused practice routine. Don't be that guy that just goes down and wanks in his basement for an hour. You're literally wasting your time. You're never going to get better if you continue. This is the most important thing I'm going to say this whole time. You're never going to get better if you just continue doing what you know how to do and you're comfortable with. Go out of your comfort zone. Learn new things. I'm a Canadian white guy. I learned how to play Afro-Cuban. I learned how to play jazz. I went outside of my comfort zones because as a teenager, I had no idea how to play jazz. I had no idea how to play Afro-Cuban, Brazilian. I couldn't play odd times. I couldn't do anything. I was just strictly a 4/4 young rock drummer. But teachers that I had enlightened me. Kevin Dempsey, Ernie Porthouse, Kevin and Ernie really hipped me to Afro-Cuban and Brazilian. And then another great Canadian teacher, Paul DeLong. He was another one that taught me how to play all kinds of really, really awesome Brazilian rhythms and Afro-Cuban rhythms and, rhythms outside of the box and odd times and phrasing, starting the beat, starting the fill on the E, the and, the of the beat, not always starting on the downbeat. These are all things that you have to practice. Very few of us are Buddy Rich or Dennis Chambers that were just literally born to play at the highest level. Most of us have to practice. So don't waste your time practicing. Focus. All right, here's the other thing. Last thing I'm going to say here. Oh, there's another comment. R.E. Red. Or reread. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce that. Sorry, man. Knowing my Latin beats like samba and bossa nova really helped me for a last-minute sitting gig instead of trying to fake them. Yes, yes. You're 100% correct. Being able to actually understand the samba clave that takes place or the bossa nova clave, right? So we're talking about, this is the Afro-Cuban clave, 3/2, rumba clave, right? The Brazilian clave. Ba, ba, ga, ga, So there's different claves depending on which feels we're talking about. Samba, bossa, all the different claves in Afro-Cuban music. It's amazing to be able to have this, and you can pull them out. For example, let me show you what I mean. Let's say you're a rock drummer. Two bars of a Latin groove, just throwing it in there. It's still kind of a bastardized Latin groove. I mean, I was just doing that off the top of my head. It's still got a rock kind of a thing to it, but you can take what you know in Latin grooves and apply it to rock beats. That's what a lot of rock bands do on the cowbell. They'll play something on the cowbell where they go, so that is a Latin type of that's like you can use that in a mambo. You can use that in any kind of a Latin feel that requires that broken eighth note and quarter note pattern. Okay, so you can throw that into a rock feel. Let's see, another comment here. The music store says we sell musical instruments and drums also. Oh, man, you are just on a roll here. I don't know if you're a drummer. I'm starting to be suspicious. I think we have a non-drummer here today that is trying to drag us down. It isn't going to happen. Drummers, it's a brotherhood, man. We stick together. Nothing breaks us down. Nothing breaks us down. None of those things bother me. I've been playing drums for 50 years. I've heard every joke. I've seen everything. None of it bothers me anymore. I know what I bring to the table. I know what other drummers bring to the table. And man, it's a tight-knit brotherhood of love. And if you're not a loving person that wants to be warm and contribute to the community, you're not a drummer. So that's what I'm sensing here. But I still love you, man. Anyways. Okay, so we are going to wrap things up a little bit. If anyone has any questions, if you're interested in lessons, email me at drumsmylife2008@hotmail.com. You can also just check out this video or any other of my videos and leave me a message saying, I'm interested in some lessons. I want to learn how to play outside of my box or outside of the box. Let's say you just want to talk to me about something like, I'm practicing. Here's what I'm doing. What do you think I can do to make it more efficient? Message me, man. I am here on YouTube because I love to teach drums. I mean, I have a full load of students that I teach every day, except Saturday. Saturday is my day off. But I still come on YouTube and encourage people to message me and, let's set up some lessons. And, it's not going to hurt you. I'd hurt the pocketbook a little bit. Lessons aren't exactly cheap. I understand. But it is going to pay off. I can guarantee it is worth the time, the effort, and the money. All right? And then you got to get to the woodshed and you got to practice following my routine. Okay, people. What do you call a self-absorbed musician? A guitarist. Yes, you are correct. Singers too. I find bass players and drummers are the coolest in bands. Sorry about that, guitarists and singers, but you guys get all the attention. But really, the cool people in the band are the ones a little bit back from the front of the stage. Everybody focuses on the vocalist and the guitarist. Nobody pays too much attention to the bass player and the drummer, unless you're in a band where the drums is focused on. Like, I can remember taking my wife to see Rush, my favorite band, by the way, for those of you that don't know. And she was like, you can't take your eyes off him. He's constantly moving. He adds so much to the music. He's so incredible that whether he's playing a solo or he's just playing songs, he's hypnotizing. So that's an exception. Neil Peart is definitely an exception where you watch a guy. Another guy you can't take your eyes off more comically is Steve Moore, the Mad Drummer. Great drummer. Check out my reaction video to one of Steve's performances. Steve Moore is a great drummer, but man, can that guy entertain. Ridiculous entertainer. Ridiculous. All the tricks and flips and spins and everything that he does in a show. Everybody goes to that show to see him. He is the focus. But that's rare. Most of us as drummers, we like to be in the back, hide behind our cymbals a little bit, All right. Any other comments? Yes, Lane laughing. Awesome, man. Listen, R.E. Red, I want to thank you for your comments. Slane, I want to thank you for joining in today. And anyone else that's watching that didn't necessarily comment, I'm just thrilled that you guys are here with me today. So, my son, just so you know, an update, my son is here. He's home. He's safe. He's upstairs. Everything is fine. Hopefully, nothing goes wrong at his school. and it's probably just a nut job, angry about something, didn't get his gravy on his French fries in the cafeteria or something, and just acting out. Most of these things are, I mean, the school has to take it seriously, obviously, but most of these things, nothing ever happens out of them. But you can't, this day and age, you cannot risk that. The kids had to be evacuated. He's home, excuse me, he's home safe, and everything is good. All right, so like I said, message me with any questions. Thank you very much for joining me today, and thank you to those commenters that I just mentioned. And now, get to the woodshed, start practicing, people. See ya.